we are trained Marxists. And I was speaking to this young person from Arizona. He grabbed a book and he said, it's like Mao's Red Book. And I was like, man, that's what I was thinking. And it was just really cool to hear him make that connection. I was like, how about you buy like 10 to 15 of these books and you all have like a youth like organizing group where you talk about it.
So, right, I still can't believe this, but your video is our most viewed video of all time. It has 25 million views to this date, and it was posted back in August 2019. So it's been about a year and a half, and it's got 25 million views. How does that feel for you? Can you just give a summary of like what it was like to do the video, and then a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get more into the details.
Well, as you probably knew, I wasn't expecting anything. I mean, I take any opportunity that I can take to try to open people's eyes because it's getting dangerous. I mean, ignorance is the base for what's going on here today. And if you can open as many people's eyes as you can, the better. But I wasn't expecting this to get that crazy. And I think you're right. You probably know I don't do any social media other than a little bit I did with Parler. I pretty much get kicked out of everywhere because of the things I say. And I got tired of fighting that only one side. But the last time we talked, when the video came out, it was surprising because it went to 8.5 million in like 2 weeks or something. But now you're saying 25 million?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But it feels about right because I got people stop me on a naval base that I was doing work. And I got some sailors coming to me and like they recognize me. I freaked me out a little bit because they were like, "Hey, are you Ray? What did I did? Yes, what happened? What did I broke?" Yeah, he just told me the video. So yeah, it's going everywhere. I'm glad.
Yeah, and what's really cool about it is we posted it originally in August. We used to do a lot more like social influencer kind of stuff where we would, pay people with big followings to share, and that's really how we grew in the beginning. But we would just repost the video organically, and I'm talking like May 2020 during coronavirus when it first got pretty bad. We just reshared the video, and again, it got like another millions and millions and millions of views, and so it just is such a powerful story. And I laugh because remember that day when we were filming it, there was like cicadas in the background. Yep. It was shady. The sun was going through the trees and it would hit your face.
Yep. And the creepy people. You remember the creepy people?
Oh yeah. And there were people that were there that sat right next to us. It was just weird because we were filming in like a public park sort of, but it really just showed the power of the story, and the details really does overshine any flaws with production quality. So it's really all a testament to the power of your story. So if we could get into that, I think so many people have seen the video, but at the same time, we have so many new followers that might not be familiar with your story. So can you give just a quick, like 1 minute summary on where you're from, how you came to America, and what you're doing now?
Well, I would try. So I'm originally from Cuba. I was born and raised there, and pretty much from the time I was 13 that I developed my own brain and started realizing the kind of poop society, for the lack of another word, I was living in. And from that point on, teenage years and ahead, I started pretty much any chance I got, I tried to escape Cuba. You name it. Hobie cats, catamarans, raft, boats, canoe, any kind of failure habit. But by the age of 27, that's when I managed to acquire windsurfing equipment, and I got fed up, tired enough. And well, the story is even more. There's being there, being detained. They cannot prosecute me because they couldn't create a case too well with me because the position my mom held until the day she died. Then it was open season on me, so I had to get off. So yes, I escaped on a windsurfing board. I'm not the only one. I don't want all the credit. We do all know each other pretty much. 5 or 6 of us are in Miami. I'm not in Miami anymore, but they deserve the credit. The reason I did is because I knew they did it and they succeed. So I knew there was some chances. Although dying in the process, I wouldn't mind it, as you know, and we talk about it. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but if you're born in America, you're born with the given fact that you're free. So you don't really know the meaning of not being free. So when you realize that you are at that point in the middle of the ocean, first time in your life, 27 years old, and you realize you're free, you would die with a smile on your face. It's weird to explain. You made it first, so you're free, even if you died with it. So that's me. Got it to the US, went to the army because I want to earn it. I didn't want any hands out, as you also probably know. And we met later on through a friend that got us in contact about the story. And even before the interview, I always been very eager and very passionate to show people about the reality about socialism and the thing that it evolves to. People don't know that socialism is, many people, they don't know, socialism is not a political view, it's the economical system that communism used. Like the US is a, how do you call it, is constitutional republic that uses capitalism as the economical system. So communism is a political system that uses socialism to kind of pretend that they're running themselves economically, and it's not sustainable. Eventually, like it or not, it evolves into dictatorship and communism. There's no way to sustain it other by imposing it.
Yeah, actually, thank you for explaining that, because so many people are just confused about those concepts, and specifically with young Americans. And you and I have talked about the statistics before. It's why we started this organization, because I saw a poll in 2019 that said a majority of young Americans would choose socialism over capitalism. And we can get into this at the end, but I'm seeing, Ray, in America, it's quite concerning because usually you implement socialism to get economic control, right? The government then has economic control over the people with socialism. And I'm worried that with this woke corporatism that we're seeing in America, they're able to economically and financially control us to get certain behavior and action out of us without having to have been seized by the socialists and the left. So it's quite strange to see it. And it's really unprecedented compared to Cuba and Venezuela and other socialist uprisings. But we can get into that in a little bit. I want to kind of start from the beginning. If we could go, you told me a really interesting story about your mother and what she would do to boil potatoes. So can you kind of walk us through what it was like for your mom to have to feed you and your family when you were a boy in Cuba?
Now, in order to understand that a little bit more, let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
In socialist / communist Cuba, you don't get to pick what kind of career you pick. Let's say you go to school right after high school. That school that you are will receive certain places for certain career. Like they will give that school 5 positions for medicine, 5 positions for veterinary, 5 positions for lawyers, things like that. So depending on how you rank on your grades, you get to pick the most desirable one or the least desirable one. Most of the time, you don't get to pick what you go. You just grab whatever is left for your ranking on. Being a lawyer, law is not one of the low ranking one. It's one of the medium to high ranking one. Medicine is one of the high ranking one. So I guess by the time my mom was coming out of, let me say, so you get a time frame. By the time the revolution took control of Cuba, Castro, my mom was probably 6 or 7, and so she pretty much grew up on the Castro. So by the time she was done with the high school, what was available for her and what she could get was law. So eventually she became a lawyer. That's your basic degree. Then you evolve from there into what here in the US would be the prosecution side or just acting as a lawyer. Being a lawyer in Cuba is a joke. There's nothing you can defend. I mean, the entire law, there's no one side of the law that would defend the people, one side of the law that would defend the state. No, the entire law system is for the state. And you are always guilty all the time. You have to prove that you're not guilty. So she went on the persecution side. Eventually, she ended up in charge. We don't have states in Cuba. They have provinces, but it's the same. So my mom would be the final rank that she got. She would be what it is here, the state attorney, the entire state attorney. So on her power was to give people freedom. And this is the thing. Yes, I know how it looks being an official of the government, but my mom was on the good side, on the ground side of the official of the government. And I'm gonna tell you what happened. So because anyone in Cuba that is in prison or in jail, that is not for murder or rape, is in prison for surviving. Period. It's not even open for discussion. Technically, some people steal to survive, but when everything belongs to the government. So there's two kind of thief in Cuba. The society see two kind of thief. That one that break into your house and steal from you, that's the low class. That's for us. That's, yes, you're a thief, you're scum of the earth. But that's only like 5% of it. 95% of all thieves in Cuba steal from the government because everything belongs to the government. If you're starving, I mean, if you're a farmer and you have cows, you are the keeper of the cows. You know, the owner of the cow. The government owns the cow. So you think you're going to have cows and your family is starving and you're not going to kill one to eat? So that makes that farmer a criminal under the view of a society that everything's owned by the government. So you see the dual standard, our society, well, not that society, that's just not mine by choice. But that society learned to live with that dual standard and that acceptance of being a criminal, but not real, like the Robin Hood criminal and the criminal. Because everyone that is in prison, and I told you that is not for rape or murder, is in prison for surviving or political, for saying something, dare to say something against the government, like the ladies in white. So my mom, when she was little, she grew up in a Catholic environment. Later on, Castro took absolute control of the island. Religion became a problem, and going to church, you will lose your job, period. No one was allowed to go to church. So the very few that went to church were the 70, 80-year-old ladies that they have nothing else to lose, and the society the government don't care about them, and they went. They have nothing else to lose. But everybody else wasn't there all the way to the late 80s, since 1959.
Do you know why that was the case? Was it a rejection of Christianity? Or
I know. No, because the Catholic Church never shake hands with the dictatorship. Never. Now the Protestant side of the church did eventually get in bed with the government. We don't need to jump into the religious side of this, but I guess depends who's in charge of the church at that time.
Okay.
So Christmas was prohibited. There was no Christmas in Cuba until 1998, that the John Paul II was coming visiting the island. And I'm gonna tell you why Christmas disappeared in Cuba. It's always in the name of something greater than good. Always. That's how they always acquire your freedoms, your liberties, your guns, your everything. So on the 70s, we're getting sidetracked a little bit. I'm gonna go back to my mom. So in the 1970s, Castro was obsessed with meeting a production of sugar, like 1 million tons of sugar, something insane, in order to pay the Soviet Union debt. Because Cuba has a massive debt with the Russian today. But at that time, the Soviet Union, the debt continued, even though the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. It was like $25 billion. Anyway, he got obsessed with 1 million tons of sugar. And he said, listen, people, for the greater good of a nation, we might as well get away with Christmas this year in order to ramp up the production. That's it. No more Christmas. It never came back.
That's what the reason was, for more productivity?
More productivity.
To work on Christmas.
He's a sneaky bastard. He's a sneaky bastard. He had all this planned ahead of time. We were, okay, this year, okay, only for the production. We get it back later. Yes, sure, never. So until 1998, that it was convenient for him, because the Pope was coming, first time any Pope visited Cuba. He said, 15 days of something before the Pope came, hey, we're going to have Christmas. We're going to have Christmas now. It's okay to have Christmas. Yes, good. Go to church now. People went to prison and lost their job for going to church. That's one key factor I'm telling you, because this is starting to smell like that a lot. Like, forget about freedom of press. It's gone. I don't know if you know. Other than news and independent people.
Yeah, it reminds me of how they're telling us that they're doing this for safety, and that's why we can't go to church.
Always,
it's very similar to what Castro did.
It is always on the name of for the greater good of a people.
Yeah.
Bull crap. It's not. That's the roofie. That's the roofie to get you, to convince you to sit on the bed first, and then to push you back and lay you down on the bed, and then flip you upside down, and now you know where we're going.
Right. All right, this is for young people to learn, so let's keep it PG
That's why I stopped there.
That's
So
a good
back to my mom.
Mhm.
So she ended up with that position, like the equivalent of the state attorney, and on her power was to give people freedom.
Okay.
So she got the power to say, okay, you got your parole, go on, I don't know, how do you call it, like good behavior release, early release.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she was doing that left and right to anyone that wasn't a murderer or a rapist. So we got really fast on the black list of the government. But it's really hard to fight the state attorney, you know, especially when she's not openly against, she's using their law against their, you know, and it worked out. But on the underground, yes, our phone got intervened. Oh, I forgot. At that time, when I was 13, I already had a big mouth, and that didn't help. There was a point that I didn't even need to give you my address if I want you to come by my house. I didn't have to give you the address. All I had to give you is a big reference point, like in a stadium. Hey, you know that baseball stadium nearby? Yeah, just go there and start asking for the crazy guy that lives on the 4th floor. You do that, everybody will point you to my house. Oh yeah, the one that screamed from the balcony, dead to Castro and the end to the the end to the commons. Yeah, that crazy guy lives out there. People will point you to where I live. They knew that much. So because of that, you could see in my house lines of family members coming by, because let me give you an example of 73 or 76 independent journalists. Their crime was to be independent journalists. Many of them got sentenced to life in prison. So what they did, if you were from Chicago, one of these journalists, they would put you in prison in Florida. If you were from Florida, they would put you in prison in Washington, on the very far opposite end, just to make it harder in your family and harder into kind of trying to appeal any of the case or to do anything. It makes it harder. So family members that have their family on prison, they will come to my house and they will bring, my mom would agree to bring like first cleaning stuff like toilet paper, toothpaste, very basic items that the people would need in there, because the prison wouldn't provide you any of that. Well, they don't have any. So the lines outside my house of people, family members, to consult and talk to my mom the case, they were never ending. Like many of the time we ended up, okay, stay, we have dinner with us. It's all day long. And my mom, over the age of 50 something, she already have osteoporosis. You know, when they get at that age, if they have a really poor diet of calcium, the osteoporosis take over, and so she was struggling with health. So the government, in order to make it harder for her and do her job, she's supposed to have a vehicle provided by the government to go and visit all the prisons and see the people. They took away the vehicle, and see if my mom stopped doing that care, because she was carrying bags, like care bags for the people in prison. For those people that with the stuff that's like toothpaste and first necessity stuff. And she was giving them freedom as many as he could through the process. And the government didn't like that at all. So they started tightening and making it harder on her, to the point that my mom was climbing on dump trucks, hitjacking to go and do her job, and climbing the big tire wheels of the truck, climbing into the dump side of a bed of a truck with all the people's like personal bag to get to prison and start giving it away. You should see the day my mom died. You should see her funeral. The street in front of the funeral home was blocked. It was hundreds of people that were grateful for things that she did. Later on, those people, a lot of them helped me to get out of the island, because in order for me to get approved to leave, I had to surrender all our belongings. They would send a guy to my house and inventory everything. 14 forks, okay, a table here, a refrigerator. If by the time I was leaving, any of that thing were missing, I wouldn't be able to leave.
So that was if you wanted to leave the country and come
the
to
proper way. You know, at the end, I ended up coming the proper way. But in order to be released by the government, you need a permit, and it involves that, but only on the cases of people that leave to the U.S. because you're a traitor. If you leave to Spain, none of that matters. None of that applies.
Yeah.
If you were leaving to the U.S., you lose everything.
Interesting. Now,
at
some
that
of
time.
these criminals, did you tell me earlier that some of the people that went to prison, it was for things like going out into the ocean and picking up lobsters and trying to just eat the
Yeah,
they would get?
even I don't know why is it so hard to believe. That's one of the harder things for people to believe, that a lobster will get you to prison. It is, even today. I mean, a lot of things have changed later in Cuba. I mean, not the government or the regime, but they figured out that in order to make money to survive, they need to bend a little bit. But that hasn't been. Beef and lobster, they're obsessed with those two. You still can go to prison. Cuba is an island. And if you're a Cuban, you cannot jump in the ocean without the aids or any scuba equipment, just by your alone. You cannot catch wild lobster. You're not allowed to. Now the government gets about, containers, boats, whatever. Actually, there's pictures of Castro fishing lobster. It was okay for him, not for the people.
Yeah.
Just as you know.
That's fat. And so was it because they wanted to, it was government property technically, like all the animals in the sea, they were
Well,
government
not all the animal. Lobster was a high seller item. Good
Okay.
money maker for the tourism industry and exporting and on.
Yeah, not for the people.
No, hell no, not for the people.
So what's that potato story that you were telling me about your mom? What'd she do with the furniture?
Well, it got 1993. So now you have the background of what she was doing and her position. I was a teenager. I was going to school. I had a big mouth. So I was on pretty much every blacklist. I couldn't step outside my house. Like every other week, it's called a chief of sector. That's like a small police station in charge of that area. I wasn't allowed. Oh, by the way, in Cuba, you're not allowed to be shirtless unless you are in a beach area. That's you can get a fine. But I'm a teenager. It's a tropical island. I just got out of my house. I go shirtless. So that would open up an excuse for them to give me a beating or detain me and do anything they want. The bottom line, I was a big mouth, and that didn't help with my mom. And what she was doing for work and giving people freedom, it makes things for us really, really hard. She wouldn't be, if you don't go into the black market in Cuba, you won't survive. And a lot of people were scared to sell us under the table an extra pound of bread. So everybody else would do that, and everybody survives and goes by. But for us, and I was too young, I didn't have my focus was to stay in school. Any other one that would have quit school would have gotten some kind of underground black market business, like I don't know, fixing bicycles or reselling computer parts. But we couldn't do that. No, what a lot of people were afraid of. Oh, you're the son of a state attorney. No. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have beef. What do you mean I don't have it? I need to buy beef. You have any beef to sell? Aren't you the son of the, no, dude, no, I don't do any of that. So that made it really hard. Not that was the main reason, but in 1993, everybody said, I think if you didn't have the last name Castro, on 1993, you were scratching for surviving. 1993 was really, really bad. I remember when I go to the dentist here and they see my teeth inside full of metal, old-fashioned metal fillings, I tell my doctor, listen, I used to grab rocks of sugar that the dump truck, when a dump truck full of sugar comes to the seaport to send out that sugar, they dump it into these big silos that swallow the sugar. And so they have big bars in between to prevent anything big to go through other than the sugar. So on top of those bars, you get a buildup of sugar, but with humidity and more sugar and more humidity, they ended up turning into rock. So me and a friend, we used to go there and grab pieces of it just to eat it. We used to eat raw crystal sugar with your teeth. You know what that can do to your teeth? I'm still have all of them, which is amazing. I don't even know how I accomplished that, but yeah, one of the really bad times to survive. So there was a point that there was nothing to go by, and I remember for some reason that part of the year, potato was the only thing that was showing up on the government-owned market. You don't go to those markets and buy whatever it pleases you. You go to the market with a ration card, and they look at to see what you're entitled and how many you got. So for that month, we got our ration of potato, which is not much. I mean, I'm talking, if we got 5 pounds between the two of us, that was too much. But there was nothing else. That's it, potato. And no electricity, no propane, because here in the US, electricity for cooking is kind of like the preferred way. Your stove is mostly electrical. In Cuba, is propane is the preferred most. This is standard way. When things goes really bad, people start burning wood or making charcoal. And when things are good, they start using electrical. But the main thing is propane. So at that point, there was nothing. And you can't count on electricity because those are the days that we had 16 hours of blackout. People jokingly, they say, they were asking around the city, so do you know when the blackout schedule is? Instead of asking that, people were, when the power up schedule might be. It will be easier and faster just to figure out the little bit of hours you got on light of electric power. So it got that bad enough. Again, because of what my mom used to do, nobody would sell those crap. I mean, there's a black market for everything. So there's a black market for a propane bottle. Nope, we don't have any propane bottle for you. Yeah, okay. So what's next? We need to eat. Well, we two on this household, and we have 4 shares. We only need 2, and we start burning some of them. And not anywhere. I mean, in between the 2 apartments. Picture a building that when you're going up the stairs, there is a flat that you got one person door and another person door. So in between that, the neighbors, we agree with the other guy across the door and us. Let's do it. Let's burn some of the furniture here and just boil the potato. Lucky you if you got salt, if you find salt. I mean, it wasn't like that all the time. It was a period of that specific time, which now I can see that it was the rock bottom. It kept going really bad for a long time, and before 1993 and after 1993. But that day, the potato that scored my mind. There we are destroying our little bit things that we got to boil potato.
Yeah, that's fascinating. There's also, I know you said that you were outspoken from the start, but in the beginning, weren't you outspoken in favor of the regime because of the indoctrination in the public schools? I think you told me the story when the USSR fell. Can you talk about that? Because that's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, like any other kid, I was brainwashed, and you have to let them be brainwashed. There is an age that you cannot tell the kid in your house to listen. What they're telling you, that's not the truth. The truth is this. If you do that to a 6-year-old, he's not going to hold his mouth. When he goes back to school, he's going to say what he learned or her at home, and everybody's in trouble. Now we're in deep poop. So if you have a kid in Cuba at that time, now it's a little bit more relaxed. People are losing fear, and people are way more spoken. You still get punished. Like if you Google ladies in white, those are the wife and daughters of the independent journalists. All they do is they go outside, dressed in white, holding a flower on the hand, in silence. But the government knows what that means, and the people knows what that means and who they are. And that's enough. They get a beating. Don't take my word. Go online, you millennial people that love to be online and on your phone all the time. Go online and do your own research. Ladies in white. And see the beatings they get just for walking in silence. Anyway, where I was, back to 1990. So I was one of those kids. No one, and again, what my mom used to do for work, more important, no one can tell me the truth. So 1990, I know the communist, the Soviet Union collapses between 1990 and 1991. But for some reason, in my mind, I think it's 90, or at least over there in the school. So I was on this boarding school. It's 11 days on the school, 3 days at home. I was a swimmer. Good thing I was a swimmer. A sports school. So every morning there's a massive meeting. It's routine. And they give you the daily speech or whatever's going on in the country. So that day, the main subject of the speech, we call it matutino, means morning session. So the main subject that day, it was very unusual because the head director of the school, which don't usually come to these speeches, he came out the entire board of the school was there to give you the speech. The Soviet Union collapsed, people. We're gonna go into they call this keyword special period. Option 0. Now, what the hell is option 0, dude? Well, where are we going? The Soviet Union collapses. We don't have that support anymore. The empire is 90 miles from us. We need to be ready and then pumping everybody. War! All the kids, everybody's, oh my God, the Americans are coming. Let's die now. You get that bad, you get paranoid. So when we got the release from school, and after that day, I got home and told Mom, the Soviet Union is collapsing. The empire is coming. If they come, I'm gonna throw myself out of the balcony. They're not gonna catch me alive. And I guess my mom knew how stubborn I was. When I tell you something, I mean it. If I tell you I'm gonna swim across the ocean, I'm gonna swim across the ocean. I know. Just believe me. If I tell you, I don't give you a second warning. So I guess that's scary enough. And so hold on a second, because this one will really jump out of the balcony. And she opened up. She talked. I got to talk. Listen. And it was surprising because over there I was 9 or 10, and geography classes, I'm pretty sure they touch a subject that there's other countries in the world, but it was so much U.S. Soviet Union. I really believe there was only 2 countries in the planet at age 10. The school system over there doesn't make too much emphasis at that time on going over the other countries and things like that, but you hear so much at that time, the empire, the U.S. and the Soviet Union, so much that I really was impressed to find out that there were more countries other than the U.S. and the Soviet Union. So I got to talk, and I remember being really angry when I find out I was that deeply manipulated, and I didn't grow this big mouth right away, but it started going. It kicked up the process of being more outspoken, and that was 10, so 1990, 91. 3 more years, and we reached rock bottom. And at that time, I was suicidal. I was at the point of kill me, just kill me. The police, the cities were taken by the military at those days. Anyone that's Cuban is listening to me, you know what a gallitos means. That's the nickname, because they got that militarized police have a patch that is a fighting cock, a rooster, a fighting rooster. And the small one, we call him gallito, like little rooster. And every time I went out to the street, anyone that went at night, like 8 or 9 p.m., and you walk through one of those main streets, you will get pulled. You will get pulled by one of them, and you get questioned and show me your ID and what you're doing. Open the bags, what you have in your bags. And again, anyone that's trying to survive in Cuba will have something illegal on that bag. If you have more than 80 grams of bread, you walking on the street, why do you have 2 pounds of bread? No one is entitled to 2 pounds of bread. Enough. Let's go to prison. Let's take you to the station. And I had long hair at that time already. With 13, I had long hair. I think at 14, I got my first tattoo. So you get an idea how rebellious I was. 14, I went behind the back of my mom and got myself a tattoo. Screw it. Kill me. You too. Kill me. And every time they stopped me, they wouldn't call me the proper way, like, hey, citizen, hey, comrade. No. Hey, you faggot, because I got long hair. And I would turn around and say, hey, you Palestine. Let me tell you, Palestine for us is not the classic Palestine, the country for us. For us, Palestine is, you take Cuba, you cut it in half. Anyone from the east side, the west side of Cuba don't like too much the east. Hey, you Cuban, you know what I'm talking about. Call the crap. It is like that. The west don't like the east. Why? Because 99.9 of all the police officers anywhere in Cuba are from the east side of the island. That's the main reason. And we don't like each other because you got one side of the island oppressing the other. Anyway, and we call it their nickname is Palestino. So we call it you. I was gonna curse, but I'm trying to hold myself. So every time they stop me from having a long hair and call me faggot, I would turn around and call them, you piece of crap Palestine, and that would start everything with 13. So I got my beatings that right there open up for a beating, and they would take you on the back of a truck and give you a beating. So officially, they're not beating off a teenage, but you get it. And I was in trouble all the time. That's why I grew up with a big mouth eventually. And I reached a point that I don't care anymore. And the final proof of it, do you think the windsurfing thing escaping is the most daredeviling part of it? God, you should have seen the raft that I jumped in once. And he ended up leaking, and we didn't make it a mile away. So we would have to swim back at night in dark water swim back for like a mile. That was creepy. That was crazy.
Yeah,
But
I'm glad
again,
you put that out. Oh man.
you reach a point that you say you tell yourself, I'm done. What's the option? These are dying out there in the ocean. Kill me. Let's take it. But this is a slow kill. They're killing you soul. Forget about being hungry and not having a future or a flat screen TV or nothing. It's burning your soul. You can see, I remember seeing myself quitting, getting closer and closer, burnout, closer to the point that I don't care anymore. I don't want to live anymore. And there's a lot of people. Suicide rates in Cuba is huge, huge, especially among the elder people. Huge. People got enough. There's a point you only can take so much, and that's a way out. I don't blame it. That's the way out.
Well, and so you said that you were beaten up for stuff like the long hair and being, a little sassy whenever they called out to you. What was the deal with the music? You said that something about the Beatles. What was that?
Oh, well, flash news. During the 60s and 70s, I think the Beatles were prohibited in Cuba. And because anything new, hell no. My mom used to tell me story that they had to hide on the basement of a friend's house to listen to the Beatles. And that eventually got softened about the Beatles. They didn't care much about the Beatles. But hard rock music in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, hard rock music like heavy metal, Metallica, things like that, Pantera, things like that was part of the rebellious youth, Usually go hand by hand. If you like that kind of music, okay, if you like salsa and all that Latin music, you were more into party, rum, alcohol, let's drink. And that's the other thing, the government like you drunk. I mean, grocery store might lack on rice and potatoes and stuff like that for you to be able to feed your family, but alcohol is highly available. Anywhere you go in Cuba, it's better to keep the population drunk and and that mental state that you're not too much of a problem than having you thinking and using your brain. So that kind of Latin music kind of thing, party style kind of thing, didn't go too much against the government because of what it involves, is partying and celebrating. Now, rock music, on the other hand, contains a lot of frustration and anger that you need to release. So it usually goes hand by hand with young people that are really not too much against with the government on that, and kind of like outspoken. And the way we dress, long hair, a society, a very communist, strict society, where the male has to look like a male. You, a guy, have long hair and ear piercing and tattoo, you're the scum of the earth. And we pay the price for that. I pay the price for that. Now it's okay. Everybody has tattoos now. But late 80s, early 90s, dude, I paid the price for that. Yeah. So rock music and against the government were hand by hand, really close. And they knew that.
So speaking of, they called you the F word when you were walking with long hair. I think it's funny because there's a lot of Americans that are, the social justice.
Oh God, I know where you're going.
Che Guevara shirts and stuff.
That guy, I knew you were going to that guy on the gay parade somewhere. This guy with a gay guy on a gay parade with Che Guevara t-shirt on. Dude, that guy executed gay. Point blank, executed gay people. And Che Guevara, look at, go online and research. Che Guevara said in the United Nations, we are killing, we are executing, we will continue executing, and we will stay executing people. He said it. Do you want anything more than that? I can argue his own words. He was known as the vulture of the Cabaña Casa. He was the one in charge of the execution of anyone that was against the government. And I told you on the last interview, and I guess for timing reasons, you guys didn't add it up. But Che Guevara, the few times that the family was allowed to visit the person that was about to be executed. You remember when I told you?
Oh, yeah.
The last time the family was allowed to see the guy that was about to be executed, Che Guevara didn't walk them through the halls. He would take the family and walk through the shooting field where the fire squad would be, where you can see the pieces of brain and blood on the walls with the flies and all that. He wanted your family to take that message out and traumatize. That's Che Guevara.
So before he would kill political prisoners, you're saying Che Guevara would bring the family members to witness it so that they would go and tell the story and bring fear to the population. Is that what happened?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Sadistic mother. Sadistic. Very
And
sadistic.
if you swear, I could just bleep it out. It's fine. So don't worry about it. But that's fascinating. And so I think that contrast of what young Americans think Cuba is like and what Che Guevara and Castro are like, it's been so distorted by people like Bernie Sanders, who continue to say that Cuba's great. It just has great literacy programs and a great education and healthcare system. Before we get into your transition out of Cuba, can you just walk me through the healthcare system? What was it like there? Because Cuba is always praised by people on the left in America for having a great healthcare system. Can you walk us through that?
Let me tell you what happened. Back when the Soviet Union was heavily subsidizing Cuba, because of the convenient reason that Cuba, do you think it's because of the ideal of communism? It's not. It's because Cuba was 90 miles from the US, and that provided the Soviet Union a safe haven for spy, satellite, radio station, listening radio station, submarine station, you name it. So anyway, the Soviet Union heavily subsidized Cuba because it was convenient. And I lost the track, but what do you want? The Soviet Union?
Healthcare.
The healthcare system. So at that point, it was really easy for Cuba to heavily subsidize the healthcare system. Yeah, at that time, on the 80s and late 70s and 80s, not the 90s, but the 90s, everything started declining, dropping rock bottom on everything. Cuba had a really advanced healthcare system. And I guess because also, as you go back in time, from 1959, when he took charge of it, until the 80s, so as you advance in time, a lot of people either die or leave the island. So how closest we get to the present, more people, the migration gets exponentially bigger and bigger and bigger. So going back to their early 70s and late 70s and early 80s, you still have a lot of good, let's call it the brains. Cuba still had the brain power to teach good doctors to be good doctors, you know? Eventually, that brain power ended up leaving. So what you have today as a doctor in Cuba, I would prefer to go to the barber to remove my liver. I will go to the barber in Cuba before I go to the doctor. It's not the same. So what happened is that late 70s, early 80s, Cuba has the luxury, because of the heavily subsidized from the Soviet Union, Cuba had the luxury to put a lot of money into the healthcare thing for bragging reasons. More than anything, for bragging reasons. Do you know that in Cuba, they would do anything they can for a female not to have natural, let me organize, not to have a C-section, because it looks really good in books having a natural birth alive. So they would tweak those numbers. Anyone my age of Cuban origin would know. Do you remember how obsessed was the Cuban government with natural born alive? Do you remember those numbers? Nacido vivo, babies, born alive babies. I don't know why. Don't ask me why they were so obsessed with those numbers. But Cuba will force, like if you are a female pregnant on delivery day, if there's any complication with your baby that you need a C-section, they will force it to come out for the natural birth canal. Even if the mother dies, even if the baby dies, I don't know why that was an obsession with it, but they did. They will hold on to any other means of delivery in order to force and push out a baby, even though it wasn't risk his life or the mother's life.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
but now, eventually, when the Soviet Union collapses, Cuba cannot, because again, socialism is not sustainable. You cannot keep up with the demands and consumption of a healthcare system, the amount of money and resources they need, just being subsidized by the government on a country that Cuba doesn't collect taxes at that time. So there's not a revenue system. It's 100% state-owned and subsidized. So when things start getting, because when everything shines, everybody's happy. When there's food in a grocery store, the doctor's happy to go to work, the healthcare is okay, and everybody does his job happily. The 90s come, food disappears from the grocery stores. Doctors they reach a point that they reach the conclusion, wait, hold on a second. I'm a brain surgeon and I open in people's skull during the day, but the guy that plays the guitar in a hotel makes more money than me. Screw this, I'm leaving. I'm gonna learn to play guitar. And that's the actual fact. So at the late 90s, the only pediatric brain surgeon of my city, and I'm not gonna say his name, but we knew him. We were close. During the night, he plays guitar in hotels, late 90s. And during the day, I mean, he did it because, you know, he's the only pediatrician brain surgeon. So I guess he felt the call on his heart to go and still do a little bit of his job that he could have. But that wasn't paying to feed his family. He had to play guitar for tourists.
Yeah.
So that body got, I mean, you see in the picture, holy crap, that when my mom got a brain aneurysm, we had to go to the neurological floor of the hospital. We were, for some reason, when aneurysms blow up in your head, the blood pressure on it can mess with anything in your body. I mean, you got something irritating the brain, and that can end up getting weird things. Like on my mom's case, she would have cramps that she feel like she needed to use the toilet, on and off. So this is kind of graphic. We were, you know, the bedpan that you're supposed to use on bed. One bedpan for 76 people. Do you want me to describe to you how that bedpan look on the inside? Just I'm gonna leave it to your imagination. Not a single nurse to be found on that entire floor. 76 people dying for some neurological reason, throw out there on those beds. I think Auschwitz had better beds and bunks than that neurological room floor in Matanzas City hospital. Mm. The stink, the window, the filth, the bedding on it. God, no one deserves to die like that. Yeah. That bedpan, dude. That bedpan traumatizing.
I'm sorry. That's wow. So did you leave? Your mother passed away when you were still in Cuba, and then is that why you decided to leave?
No, this is the thing. So the government over there, they're really good at getting rid of you. And the fact that at any given time you ask, hey, where's Morgan at? Oh, you haven't heard? Morgan grabbed a barge. She took a raft. She's gone. So not seeing Morgan is very common. Morgan might disappear any given day. So the government, the KGB, the Cuban KGB, they know that. So it's really easy to make Morgan disappear. All they have to do is spread the rumors that you took a raft. You don't have to make it anywhere. You took a raft, and that's it. I wonder today how many people just took a raft and they're gone. Because when you do that, and I know because I did it, every time I did it, I didn't tell my mom. Do you think I'm gonna tell my mom I'm about to jump on the raft? She will get in front of me. She will hold me, she will tie me down. So people don't tell the family that they're about to jump on the raft. So that's very convenient to get rid of you. So when an aneurysm thing with my mom came on, I don't know if you know, but you only have 72 hours. From the moment an aneurysm ruptured, you only have 72 hours to intervene. Anything past the 72 hours, your chances of surviving are going down like a cascade. So what did they have to do to get rid of her? There is a police officer on every hospital just to take in any emergency, anyone that walks with an injury in Cuba. There is a police guy at the door, hopefully. I mean, if he's not around the kitchen trying to steal something to eat, but he's supposed to be on the main door, analyzing and categorizing anything that's walking through it. But it could be political. You know, it could be anything against the Castro that you might be ended up bleeding on your head and somebody took action on you. So she was well known. People, the government at government levels on my city, they knew who she was. I mean, she was abusing her powers. She was giving people freedom. Anyway, so the best way to get rid of her is that. Very convenient. She walked into the hospital with aneurysm. Let's dump it right there in that room with 76 more people, and let's wait. Let's stress it. And that's what happened. It was too late. Nothing to do. And that's how they got rid of her. And at that time, then it started getting dark for me. And I started getting people undercover police cars stationed underneath my house, and the phone was tapped. Like they wanted me to know that the phone was tapped. Like I would lift up the phone analog. There's no digital phone at this point yet. So I lifted the phone, put it on my ear, about to dial, and you can hear somebody breathing on the other side. They're telling me, we're listening to you. So and it just got worse and worse and worse. So that's when the whole windsurfing thing came out. If you're gonna kill me, fine. If I survive, fine. I don't care. At that point, I don't care.
Yeah. And how did you get the windsurfing equipment and really set off? Did you prepare for it, or was it on a?
Yeah, it was lingering in the back of my mind. Hey, yeah, I know that I told you we all know each other. That people have done it and they made it. But at first, it wasn't my main idea. I wanted to have my own. I struggled for a long time to learn how to use them because they're not available anywhere. You pretty much somebody that live in a touristic area has to inherit it as a gift from a tourist, and that person will sell it down the line, and eventually people will get it. But and that's how in the black market again you ended up putting your hands on one. But I started sailing, windsurfing all day long, except the time that I did something on the side to make some money. But pretty much all day long, other than that. And some friends and I, we were jogging one day, and we were doing the math, and we told each other, "Hey, do you know we spend because that bay in my city there is maybe 3-4 miles wide, and we spend the entire day going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we were talking one day. Do you realize if we put all this back and forward in one straight line, I think we can make it. Instead of turning around all the time, we just might well just one straight line. We can make it." And that thing stayed in the mind like, yeah. And we left it there. But yeah, the seed is, and the fact that I knew the other people, yeah, all I needed was to be up to here and say, you know what, screw it, let's go. And I jump in.
And how old were you when you did that?
24.
Okay, so you did the windsurfing attempt at 24?
Yeah. April.
What year was that?
2004. April 2004.
Okay.
The windsurfing thing. 2004. We were windsurfing all day long, and I got fed up. I don't know exactly what triggered. But I got fed up, and I told one of my windsurfing buddies, "Hey, can you stay?" Because I had a rig, I had a bicycle thing going on with a handmade trailer that I put the stuff in the back, and highly valuable. I mean, a bicycle and that thing, anything in Cuba is highly valuable. Bicycle, that's your main means of transportation. So we don't leave that laying around. And for that reason, I told my friend, "Can you come home with me tonight? Stay with me tonight. I need to go somewhere there really early. I need you to go with me to take care of the stuff." And I think I told him we're gonna go. I want to try to windsurf this far side of the bay. And when we got there, early in the morning, there's no wind there. The wind is calm. And I told him, I started rigging all my equipment, and I told him at that point, the reason I needed you is so you can take my stuff back to the house. Yeah, it was like laughing like, "Hey, why? I'm leaving." Yeah, sure, you're leaving. No, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go that way, and I'm gonna disappear on the horizon. Nah, you're not. And later on, after all that thing happened, I saw him again. He told me, I stay on the beach, telling to myself, okay, now he's gonna turn. Oh no. Okay, now he's gonna turn. Oh, he kept going. No, now he told me I stayed there telling myself that you were gonna turn, that you were jogging until you completely disappear out of the horizon. So I jump in, got the equipment. I told him to take everything and take it home, and I got on the water. And I was struggling for the 2-3 miles because there's no wind, and without wind, staying on top of the board with the sail up is very tricky. And at that time, I can see 2 fishing boats trying to. It's very unusual. Fishermen, the few ones that have boats in Cuba, you know what? I challenge anybody to go on Google Maps, zoom in over Cuba, any bay, and tell me how many. You know how you do that here in Florida? You see many privately owned boats. You can see the track where they were going. You're not gonna find one in Cuba. You're not gonna see personally owned fishing boats in Cuba. No one has boats in Cuba. Only very elite people. So it's very unusual, and they go out to fish with the exact amount of fuel to go to point A, fish, and go back to point B. There's no wandering around there. So the fact that I see two fishing boats, like handmade, handcraft, trying to intersect me or going at me on the far side of the bay, that's very unusual. I guess at that point they figured out that I was on a place that no one ever goes. Because there's no business for me to windsurf on that side other than a straight shot into the ocean and disappear. So they started approaching, and I was like, well, no wind. These people are coming. I think the end of the trip is going to be pretty soon. And thankfully, the wind picked up, and I take off and left him behind. So there's a mountain back in land. There is a mountain. I don't know. At the point, I didn't know exactly. This is just rumors because nobody fish around. Nobody have navigational charts or anything. It's all about what you heard that the fishermen said or something. So the rumors in my city is that if you're going out into the ocean and that mountain disappears on the horizon behind you, you are 30 miles away. There's a relation. There's a physical thing. There's a relation between the height of something and the curve of the air of the planet, and you going away. There will be a point that's going to disappear. So the rumor says that by the time that mountain disappeared, you were 30 miles away. So I was paying attention to that, taking a look back every so often. And the only thing I had with me was a watch. People tell me all the time, you didn't have a compass with you. Now, what for? Dude, I only have so much of a choice where to go where the wind direction is blowing. I mean, the ideal navigation way for any wind power vessel is right across. It's a cross reach. I mean, if this is the direction you're going and the wind is blowing that way, that's ideal. I mean, you can go, if this is the wind, you can go a little bit like that. But for the windsurfing board, this is the wind direction and this is where I need to go. That's not an option. So what's the point for me to get a compass? And it's not, a compass is only useful if you have a reference point on the horizon that you can look at the compass and say, oh, the orange tree, that's where I need to go. And you put the compass away. Otherwise, you need to navigate with a compass all the time in front of you, which is not an option on a windsurfing board. So yes, people, no compass, just a watch. So I noticed that the mountain disappeared 1 hour after sailing. So I figured, okay, I basically did 30 miles in 1 hour. So if I keep this up, it should be somewhere between 8 or 9 hours to do. And that's it. That's all the direction I use. And hours assume speed and at how many hours I should be seeing land. So keep that in mind because it's important to know why I took the decision to chase the Coast Guard. So I kept going. Everything was nice. I jumped. I was airborne like 3 times out of wheel. I didn't want to jump, but the wave and the wind, it made me jump. And I was concerned because the equipment I have is not meant to be used for jumping. Not to mention they are really old and almost falling apart in my hand. So I kept going and I see what it seems to be a lighthouse on the horizon. And I got really excited because at that point I was like on the hour 7, 6 each, 7 hour sailing. And I was, this might be it. So I start aiming to that object, assuming it was a lighthouse. And as I get closer and closer, I noticed the red stripe on it. Hold on a second, that's the U.S. Coast Guard. So I played dumb. I mean, we kept like 2 or 3 miles away from each other. And I just kept going. They're not coming to me. I assume they didn't even see me. So I kept going. And now, holy crap, I dodged a bullet. So at that point, let's call it hour 7. I kept going towards the U.S., I think, towards the U.S., and the Coast Guard kept going in the opposite direction. We disappeared from each other's view, each one on the horizon. But at that point, after an hour and a half, I started getting seaweed on the fin. The entire sea got covered in seaweed. So it got really old really fast. So every 5 yards that I was able to sail, I had to jump in the water again, clean the fin, and jump on again and take up just so it happened over again. And just a little bit of debris on your fin is like trying to pull a building. You can't. You cannot have nothing on the fin. So I reached a point that I was like, I don't know what's in front of me or for how long. The whole place is full of seaweed. My only option is either keep going that way or try to find the Coast Guard again. So I reached an agreement to myself. At that point, I was having an argument with myself, me and my other me. Because when you're alone in the ocean, you do weird things. And I told myself, okay, let's agree to go back the same amount of time that passed from the moment I saw the Coast Guard last, an hour and a half. So I agreed to myself to go an hour and a half back, the duration that the Coast Guard was. If at an hour and a half I didn't see them, I just call it off and try again, or sit down and drift. I don't know, but at least I tried the Coast Guard. So I did find them. I ended up catching up with them. Embarrassing enough, I keep telling this to everybody, I might be the only Cuban that ever chases the U.S. Coast Guard. That's not a good record to have, but I guess it's mine. I have to own it. And I had to chase him almost for a half an hour. They didn't see me. Still, I'm chasing them, making signs, hand signs. They didn't see me. Somebody wasn't paying attention. Now, from a military point of view, I would smoke somebody for not paying attention. They should be paying attention. But anyway, they ended up seeing me. They sent a small raft to get close to me. And actually, they came to see if everything was right with me. They weren't expecting I was Cuban. They came to me, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? And I told in English, I knew English. And I told, yeah, I'm okay. I need water. But I guess my accent gave me away, which I wasn't intending to hide or anything. I was intending to drink water. That's what I was intending. And they holy crap, you Cuban? Yeah, water. Dude, can I have that bottle of water? And they were still processing the fact I was Cuban, and I was focused on the bottle. Can I have that bottle of water? We can talk after that, all you want. So yeah, they brought me back to the boat. I meet the captain, I shake hands. I guess there was a bunch of people there taking pictures and video, which I still, ironically enough, haven't got a copy of that. I need to get a copy of that.
I wonder if we should try and find that. That sounds like it'd be fantastic to see.
I'd find, listen up, anyone out there, if you know anybody on the Coast Guard that was stationed on the U.S. Coast Guard Confidence on April 2004 in Florida.
Write that down.
Yes.
Coast Guard Confidence. See, so I don't know if you know this, but my boyfriend Jared, do you know Black Rifle Coffee?
No way. Yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
Black Rifle Coffee is my boyfriend, and he knows everybody. So we should put him on a mission to find this, right? That'd be fantastic.
Tell them I love them. I'm addicted to that channel. I love them. Matt Black, he makes my days, man. His videos, all the videos they do, hilarious.
Oh, okay. I'll tell him that, and let's see if we could find somebody who is on this boat.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Okay, back to the story. So you're picked up. Did they just bring you back?
Well, luckily for me, they kept, which is very unusual. The Coast Guard usually sinks anything you were using on the ocean. They get rid of it, it sinks in the ocean. But luckily for me, and I don't know why, they kept all my windsurfing equipment, probably because it doesn't take a lot of space. You can roll the sail and you can put it with a board. But that saved me. That saved me of a lot of years in prison. Because when we got back, so I would get there. So yeah, I get on the Confidence. I sail with them for like 3 days. They approach land, and an immigration officer comes on board, and they give me and everybody else an interview. Because I mean, if you can prove fear of repression, I mean, part of the U.S. at that time adjustment law. What's the name of the law? The Cuban law. You know, there's a specific law for Cuban migrants. At that time, it's gone now. There's no more, which I'm happy. The migration that was coming here is not a good one. And listen, people, I know some people were saying that thank you for coming legally and not illegally. I totally agree with that. The reason why I tried to reach the U.S. illegally could it be anything? Not the U.S. I want to be free or dead. Free or dead. If I land anywhere, I don't care. But I agree. Every country should have like anybody here who has a house, you have a door and a key to your house. If those rules, if you get to select who enters your house or not, same thing applies to the country. Which is a good point of argument towards Barack Obama, that calls the wall, the southern border wall, inhumane. But when he bought that mansion in D.C., before he even moved in, he built an 8-foot tall wall. So how the hell the wall works for him is not inhumane for him, but it's inhumane for the country. If that's the case, I should be able to walk into Nancy Pelosi's house, demand for a room and free food and clothing and some money every month. That's what you want for the country. Why doesn't it apply to your house? So I spent 3 days with them. I got my interview. Then we got transferred to a smaller boat, and that boat is the one that enters Cuba on a predetermined point. There's an agreement to return migrants. The exchange happens on this Mariel. That's the name of the port. The port of Mariel. That's a little bit west to the Havana city. And right there, when the American Coast Guard docks, there will be an American officer on land from the interest section. That's the only person allowed to come on board. And they hand each one of us a yellow envelope with your paperwork and the stuff you need. So at that point, we are handed over to the Cuban KGB. And what I was saying that saved me is because they also hand over my windsurfing equipment. Because even though they got the Cuban KGB got the windsurfing equipment on their hands, they still try to incriminate me on some kind of tractor engine that got lost and used into a handcraft raft or something. Are you an imbecile? You got my windsurfing equipment with you, and I don't even have a clothing with me. I had a wetsuit. Do you think I jump on that raft that you said I stole with the engine and carry a windsurfing equipment just for fun? That was, again, you try to make sense of Cuba. It doesn't make sense. It's like it's Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, there's everything. No justice. They were trying to tie you to something else.
Still, they tried to tie me to it. Having my windsurf, at the end, the obvious prevail, and me insisting a lot. And they say, okay, you don't have anything to do with it. Lost engine. So yeah, they hand me to them. I got my yellow envelope, and that envelope started the whole process of 3 years for political refugee status. And I mean, I didn't have to work too hard to prove that I had the qualification for a political refugee, as you can imagine. Yeah. The thing I was having.
So it took 3 years, and did you just fly out at that point after the year mark? You got your refugee status, and you were welcomed in, or?
Yeah, I can't remember the organization. It's one of those .org that handles refugees. They do the whole arrangement for you to fly, the plane ticket, where you're going. In my case, they would provide for some housing, but in my case, I choose to go to my friend's house in New York City, and he agreed to help. So let's bargain on the government. And just so you know, I paid back the plane ticket.
Really?
Yes. That .org, they if you had the means, you pay back the plane ticket, and I did. It took me a year cutting off $35 out of my paycheck, but I paid it off. I paid off the ticket. So no hands out. I don't like it.
That's awesome. I'll have to look up that organization. What was it like going to New York City once you're finally in America, though?
As I said, I landed. So I flew to Miami, and then I took another plane later on the day. So that made me land in New York City at night. That's being that high, at that height that the plane, I knew that the plane has to be. You know, as you go higher, you're able to see more further away. So I'm that high in my mind. I'm this high, and I still see light to the horizon. It's impressive. It tells the story of how powerful this nation can be, the things that can be accomplished. Because I know 90% of those buildings in New York City, they're made by hand, rivet after rivet. Riveting, at the time there was no welding technology. They had to heat up every rivet, put it on the hole, and hammer. And these people were walking on those beams. That tells you the balls of this nation, man. They build all that. When people get together on something that serious, that good, because New York City is made completely by immigrants. Completely. The massive Italian immigration, the massive through Ellie Islands, the massive Irish immigration. The first name of New York City was New Holland. It was founded by Dutch migrants from day zero.
That's fantastic. Didn't you say that your first meal was like a big cheeseburger or something, and you couldn't even consider?
That was huge. Even today, I remember that day like it was right now. Huge. I had no idea that a hamburger can be that big. And so you can see for the years later on, I grown fan of them.
You look great.
holy cow, man, that was huge, and I couldn't finish it up, and that was very. It made me feel bad. I don't want to be the guy asking for the bag or the plate. I don't know. I'm new. I'm fresh. I'm new. I don't want to be the guy like, hey, can I take this, home or for later on? I don't know what's going on. I'm like, is it okay? Is it wrong? Can I touch it with my fingers? Can I get? Okay, this is how traumatized I'm come from Cuba. We went to, me and my friends in New York City, we went to Coney Island. They start crossing from the point when we leave the subway and we start walking towards the actual boardwalk. They started walking over the grass. And I went around and looking for the sidewalk, which was like 500 yards away. And I started walking there. They turned on me and like, hey, what are you doing? So I don't want to step on that grass, man. I don't want to take it. I don't want to get a fine. They look at, what fine? You don't get fined here? Come here and walk on the grass. You're in America. The grass is free. Yes, you get a fine if you walk on grass in Cuba.
Jeez. Now, so what was the transition for you to be in New York City to finally get to America? How did you join the military? Why did you do that?
The first time I had a free weekend, I went to the recruit station.
Really?
The first one. Yes, right away. I always wanted to be part of this because this is, just so you understand, at that point, I'm this guy that grew up knowing, I mean, from the moment I opened my eyes in the 90s, when I got the talk, I started researching and then finding out things for myself. When I realized that the United States was the first country in the world that revolted against the king and made themselves free, this is the first nation that had a constitution. This is the first people in the planet that revolt against the king or queens and made themselves free. When I find out that, I had to be part of it.
Wow.
And my last name means weapons, Armas. That's what my last name means. Yeah, weapons. Armas means weapon. So I had to be on the army. So the first chance I got, I went to the army recruit station. I took a practice test of the ASVAB test. It's a test you had to get in, and I failed it and failed it and failed it. To pat myself on the back, the way you guys do mathematics here is way different than the way we do it there. You see the way we do division. you will get a headache. And so I realized that I needed time to study. But having the job, I was sweeping floors on a barber salon for the bare minimum pay. Very happy to do so. With a big smile, I will get my miserable paycheck. But that didn't give me time to study. I was too tired. The little bit of time I had was to sleep and go to work, Mm-hmm. But I needed to study the ASVAB test. So I tried many times to enlist. I had to pass it. First, I needed a green card to be finalized because as a political refugee, you got the resident status. But the whole process of having the green card, which is the bare minimum requisite to join the military, and the GED at least. And I needed my green card first, so I had to wait. And then I needed to study for the ASVAB test. And that didn't happen until I ended up moving to Miami. And I met my good friend, a Coast Guard captain. He dedicated a lot of nights after I was done with work. I would go to his house and he would pretty much sit down there with me and practice math. And we practiced like crazy, the ASVAB test from top to bottom. And I scored high enough on the ASVAB test. So in the Army, at least, in order to get any special operations MOS, you have to have a high GT score. So the ASVAB test gets broken in pieces, like mathematics, geography, so. I don't know exactly when they break it in pieces where the GT score come from, but is for the Army, your GT, which I think is general knowledge, has to be above 110 to be able to get on high-end, high-speed military careers. And I ended up with 111. Not bad for an immigrant. I scored higher than 90% of my entire infantry platoon.
That's amazing.
And before I got hurt, my back, my lower back and my ligaments in my feet, they got destroyed in Afghanistan, like useless. I had to roll out of the bed to get out of the bed. I cannot stand up like Dracula, the upright. I had to roll, drop on the floor, get on my knees, and then from there I can get up. But I was, at the time I got medical discharge, honorable, in case you want to know, but medical. I was about to transfer into special operation, which is civil affairs. I had all the recruiter done, all the paperwork done, because when you come back from deployment and you're multilingual and you have combat experience, you pop on their database like you are a desirable candidate for those stuff. Having a high GT score, having a multilingual thing, and having a combat experience, that makes you an ideal candidate to go, especially coming from infantry, which means you are in the top shape. You're supposed to be in top shape, but that medical thing flagged me out, and that's probably the biggest what if in my life. Every time I got a time alone that I'm not doing anything, my mind always wanders and goes back to that point. What if? I guarantee you, who knows? I would have been involved in Venezuela right now, doing sneaky stuff.
That's a good point, the big what if. But I think you have so much that's going to happen for you, and I'm really excited for you for sure. You said you were in Afghanistan twice, or?
No, one time.
Okay. Wow.
But almost for a year. The way the Army deploys is long deployments. It's not like the Navy. The Navies are really short and.
Yeah, no, I swear you should come to Texas. I live in Texas now, and I like Jared. They film the podcast out here, and they do Free Range American. I don't know if you've heard of that, if you listen to their podcast, but they have a guest every time who's basically from the military. They tell their story. They kind of just talk with the guys.
Nice.
It would be such a good guest. So I'm going to talk to Jared after this, because I think that'd be fun to fly out, and you could bring the kids or whatever you need to do. But I know that might be difficult. Let's close this off with your thoughts on what's going on with America right now, because you did all of this to come to America, right? Yeah. What are your thoughts as somebody who escaped it, lived it, and now you're seeing young Americans' naivete and where our ignorance is really.
You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like my views. I think we're screwed because we already passed too many checkpoints of how to become a dictatorship. And once, remember, it's always on the name of the greater good. They never come back. Christmas never came back to Cuba after we lost it. Okay, one of the check marks in order to acquire absolute control of a country. Control the media. Did that happen or not? It's done. The media, it's absolute. They have absolute control of the media to the point that the people are so brainwashed that God forbid you express yourself on the street. If I say that support Trump on the street, I get in trouble. People will get on my face. Americans that should have on the brain the whole thing that this is the nation of the free and you're entitled to have your own thought and political views and belief. Those same Americans don't have that on their mind anymore. They feel entitled to get on your face and challenge you, which is going to end up really bad with me. But it's gone. You already seeing the result. The people are brainwashed. Not to mention the millennials. They already believe that the socialism is a sweet candy land. And it's not, people. Socialism is the roofing to make you compliant. Of course, they're gonna make it look sweet and tasty and nice for everybody and nice for the environment. Do you knew that on the 70s? You know how they're all crazy about the global warming now? Do you knew that on the 70s was all the opposite? Global freezing. Somehow they fixed global freezing now. And now we are on warming. It's bull crap. The planet goes through a cycle of heating and cooling. It's normal. The poles, the freezing poles, they're going to rotate a couple of degrees, melt on one side, refreeze on the other, and it's going to go back. It takes millions of thousands of years, but it's a cycle. The planet has done it forever. Yeah. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be going around spilling oil. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, though, we're basically going through the checklist of what happens in every socialist communist uprising. And to act like we aren't is incredibly...
I got one more for you. Extremely creepy. What is he doing with the Supreme Court right now?
Oh, yeah. Packing the court. That's what Chavez did.
What else do you need to get... Yes, that's what I mean. What else do you need to start raising the hair on the back of your neck?
Yeah.
What's next? Guns? Yeah, because guns kill people. Huh? How about the ISIS guy that rented a U-Haul truck in New York City and started plowing to people? Let's ban trucks now. Trucks kill people.
Well, so what do you think about this? I've had a lot of people from Venezuela say that Antifa and these like street people that we're seeing terrorize everyone, I'm seeing that people from Venezuela compare them to the Chavistas, the collectivos of Venezuela, that basically became the paid police once the socialists were in power. Was there an equivalent to this in Cuba?
Yeah, it's called Brigadas de Acción Rápida, Brigades of Quick Response.
Yeah,
That's
I
what it's called.
think that Antifa is basically that in America.
Yeah, but the difference is that in Cuba, they don't need to hide or cover themselves in black and wear a mask. It's official. And the way they do it in Cuba is that the people is the one that got on the street and tried to destroy your house. It's the people supporting the revolution. But what you don't know is that those people, during the regular day job, they wear a uniform. Green. They're part of the police or part of the army.
Yeah. And that's what happened in Venezuela too. They used to be people who were just out in the streets. They used to just be like grassroots terrorist style people. And then when the left started to get power, they became official. They got uniforms. They started to get.
But I'm going to tell you right now, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they're not independent anymore. The moment Black Lives Matter gave $24 million to Joe Biden campaign, you are political now. Not to mention the founder, ironically, the founder bought a house, a mansion, $1.4 million in a white neighborhood. Black people are being manipulated in the US. That's why they want America. Black people that are listening to this, look at me. They want you racial sensitive to create division, because if you divide, you conquer. And if we are busy fighting to each other, that's how they take place. And they play the racial card to manipulate your feelings. When in reality, facts, you don't care about feelings. And they're manipulating that hurt, that pain. They're the ones that don't let it go. Slavery for 400 years ago. Jewish people were almost exterminated 60 years ago. But no one has any interest on the Jewish side in order to keep that pain alive and the manipulation and create division. But they do have that interest on the Black community of America. And it pissed me off. You all should wake up. That glass Candace Owens is there to spread the voice. I'm getting acid reflex.
She's great. And this was a fantastic conversation, and I think people are going to learn so much from this. I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking, Ray. Can I ask you one last thing?
Yeah.
Considering everything that's happening in America, I also think that we are fairly screwed. It's going to take a lot of work to get us out of the hole that we're in right now. And by that, I mean like 80% through the checklist of I think we are 80% through the checklist of what it means to transition into a leftist regime, a leftist state. What would your one suggestion be for young Americans, older Americans, just to understand the situation and fight back? Do you have one or two things that you want people to learn and take from this?
Number one, learn to survive. Like literally, learn to survive, because you're going to need it. You're going to need a source of water, because I don't see the future too far when water supply is going to be absolutely controlled by the government. I mean, let's make everything run by the government, because the government is more efficient. You people, private industry, you don't know better. We know better, the government. But they always on the name of the greater good. So let's picture they reach that point that they control everything now. You know, healthcare, the government needs to control it in order to be able to provide it for everybody. Yeah, let's do it. Done, check mark. The healthcare is completely controlled by the government. And so on and so on and so on. And eventually, water source and food is going to be controlled by the government, because you people don't know how to run businesses. The government knows how to do that. So control the water, control the food, they control the people. So number one, I would say, learn to survive. You can go 10 days without food. You can go almost nothing without water. Number two, learn a lot of stuff. Learn, because you're going to need it. You either trade is going to become currency. Money is going to lose all value. You're not going to be able to buy anything with money. I know, because it happened in Cuba. Money in Cuba might as well be monopoly money. So how does a doctor in Cuba give you a good service? You are a farmer, you bring potato, you bring meat, you bring pork, and you give it to the doctor. And the doctor is, oh, okay, I can feed my family. What do you need? That's in reality how Cuba runs today, trading. So get good at something, find something that is going to be out of value. In my opinion, I think ammunition is going to become currency. Don't freak out, you liberals. Ammo can hunt animals and feed you. It's not just defending. You can kill game and feed your family with ammo. That's why one of the main things ammo is that valuable. source of water, ammo, and transportation. Those are the main things gonna make you a king. Because ironically, you can make a fortune if you can supply a high demand. If there's a high demand for transportation, I mean, in today's day, you know who makes a lot of money in Cuba on a transportation thing? People with horses and wagons.
Wow.
Money. I mean, that's the top of the technology now to provide mass transportation, and people have demand. So yes, people are gonna get that bad. My advice: learn to survive, buddy. Because the only way this place is gonna get fixed is once we hit rock bottom, which we're pretty close. And you all millennial, you're in for a surprise. You're gonna remember my damn name. You're in for a rude awakening. You're gonna learn what it is to eat from the trash. Are you okay for eating from the trash? Because I am. I don't give a damn. I will eat a chicken, rotting chicken from the garbage can. Can you do that? Because you're gonna have to. I'm sorry, but we're heading that way. In order to know what we have right now, we need to lose it completely. I mean, you don't have to be blind. We all know we passed the point of talking. There's no more talking. Because the other side doesn't want to listen and they want to impose us their narrative. We're done. There's no more talking. Antifa, there's no talking with Antifa. Done. Black Lives Matter, there's no talking with them. That's it. Everybody's blind on their corners. So we're going down, people. We're going down.
I mean, it's a great lesson. Thank you for saying that. I completely agree. I think survival skills are going to be very necessary moving forward. We saw that with the power outages in Texas. All of a sudden, people who usually don't.
You got to take. I was laughing, people freaking out for a couple hours of no light. That was my entire teenage years.
Yeah. Yeah. And in California, I mean, we see those like rolling power outages and everything. It's pretty crazy there. But Ray, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think everybody who's listening and who's going to watch this, I think they're going to really appreciate this too. So on behalf of everybody, thank you.